The Bike Club podcast is proudly brought to you by Beth Karan and Akshaya Parthasarathi.
The Bike Club podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land we record on. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
Welcome to Bike Club, a tech podcast crafted by the girls for the girls, where we aim to elevate, educate, and explore the exciting world of technology.
So tune in and remember, the first rule of Bike Club is to talk about Bike Club.
So the interesting thing about before I wanted to do this episode, and the inspiration that I got from it was from my very favorite spot of information these days, which is TikTok. It was this video, and I don't know if you've seen this video, but it was this gathering in Las Vegas called DEF CON, which is a place where people just meet to like hack things. And there has been this woman, I forgot her name, but I will link the video once again. And she was apparently like the black belt at the event. So that basically means that you came out as the top ethical hacker over there. And the video itself was a way in which they were hacking into this person's bank account or phone service account without actually doing any coding version of hacking.
Right.
Yeah, and it got me really interested, and I was like, okay, I want to dig deep into this, and that's what I wanted to focus today's episode on. But yeah, so welcome back everyone to episode 2. Today, I'm going to be doing the episode and a report on a very fascinating woman that I found on the internet, and probably talking about a topic that has intrigued us quite a bit, especially the Australian climate, which is hacking and cybersecurity hacks. So before I delve into that, do you want to give us our rule, Beth?
Yes, absolutely. My rule is sort of a bit more about like work-life balance.
Okay.
And it is remember that you are a whole person. You are not just a machine. You're not a computer, even if you work with computers. And yeah, your only objective isn't output. So I think it can be really easy, especially early in your career, and maybe later in your career, I don't know, but I found it so far in my career, it's easy to kind of get very like fixated on all the things you need to be doing, and like I've got to like progress this way, and I've got to like work overtime to like get really, whatever.
Yeah.
But actually building a sustainable career for yourself is going to be way more effective if you're looking after yourself as a whole person. If you're looking after your brain and your body and your like, I think it's just so important to resist the like tech gremlin
lifestyle. Yeah, for sure.
Lifestyle.
Yeah,
like,
no.
I'm just gonna be a goblin and just like live at my computer all the time.
Yeah,
and
it's especially harder when you do not have, I think, a life outside of your work as well.
Yeah. You've got to have those, you've got to have community. You've got to have things that like really get you excited about life. And so just remember that you're a whole person. And your work is important, but also you are important. And so look after yourself.
Thank you. A very timely reminder for sure. Okay. So today I'm going to be covering this episode about Rachel Tobac, who by profession is a hacker. But not the one that we should be worried about. She is an ethical hacker. We have a lot of that happening these days, ethical hacking. She's the CEO of SocialProof Security. And what she basically specializes in is this concept called social engineering. So as part of her work, it involves alerting businesses around the world by basically hacking them and letting them know, like, hey, this is where you're lacking. Please fix it.
Oh, interesting.
And she doesn't necessarily, yeah, I know. So that's the essence of ethical hacking. You literally allow yourself to get hacked. Like companies ask famous hackers around the world, like go
Mm.
ahead and infiltrate our system as
Like
much as
test
you
the
can
system.
and tell
Yeah.
us how can we better improve this. Yeah, it's like, would you invite a thief into your house? Sure, if he was like an ethical thief, I guess.
If I had a guarantee that I was going to get all my stuff back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
and then
makes me think of have you seen The Social Network? The
yeah,
movie The
yeah,
Social
yeah,
Network?
yeah.
Yeah, when he first like hacks into the university system and
Yeah.
he's like Zuckerberg is like getting in trouble from the university. He's like, you should be thanking me because I actually exposed all the issues in your system. Just
Yeah.
makes me think of that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty much, actually. There's a lot of ethical hackers around today, and a lot of like the branch of cybersecurity now delves into ethical hacking. And let me tell you, there's a lot of money involved in that, like
Mm.
more money than we could ever see. And turns out all it need maybe all you need that to get started on ethical hacking is just this 8-hour YouTube video. So I might just link that in the description if
Oh wow.
anybody's intrigued to go get themselves
Speedy.
involved in this.
Who needs a degree?
Yeah, for sure. So social engineering, right? Rachel Tobac specializes in social engineering, which is nothing but cold, hard psychological warfare, which is involved in hacking. Whenever we say hacking, we're constantly thinking like lines of code on a command
Mm.
prompt and people going
Yeah.
like, I'm in, you know?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that. With social engineering, and I'll get deeper into the steps and the techniques involved at a later stage, social engineering uses nothing but base level information that they have about people or companies or just anybody that we
Mm.
know, and then how they use that to manipulate or trick you into making security mistakes. And these could be things like you give away sensitive information, and that could then result in a lot of malicious activities
Mm.
that leave you compromised. So if you combine this with the help of code, of course, you can get way more achieved. But social
Mm.
engineering alone has taken down a lot of companies in the past years. And I think the base level example, I suppose, a very commonly known example of social engineering is Nigerian Prince. Do you know about that one?
Yes, classic
Yeah,
scam.
classic
Everyone
Nigerian
has a
Prince.
Nigerian
Or
prince who's somehow related to them.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And if you ever ended up losing your money to one of them, I'm sorry, my friend. You need to up your trust skills, I guess. I don't know how you
Or
can be a
decrease
less
your trust,
trustworthy
maybe.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Stop trusting people. But yeah, I suppose if you work in an organization and if you happen to have received a really urgent email from your boss, so that's another version of social engineering, right? Now, Rachel Tobac specializes in this. So, as far as her LinkedIn had allowed me to go, she
yeah.
went from being a professional organizer at one of the senior move management service to then a teacher. And then she taught herself cybersecurity. And now she is currently the CEO of SocialProof Security. And she also serves on the chair of a board of directors at this not for profit organization called Women in Security and Privacy. Her accolades go back to the DEF CON again, which is this annual gathering that happens in Las Vegas. And she's won it 3 years in a row in an event called Capture the Flag, which basically just means that they go around and hacking people. And then she's been
Hmm.
really, really successful at it. At the heart of Rachel's work is basically neuroscience, behaviorism, and some other psychology courses that she had taken up, which aren't necessarily the traditional concepts that are linked to hacking. But she thinks that this couldn't be further from the truth because Rachel essentially uses these skills and applied behavioral analysis in order to infiltrate companies. And she has worked with so many different companies. Like she's worked with Facebook and Meta, she's worked with Twitter. Um, And there's this very cool video of her where she hacks a billionaire live on the live, like as
Whoa.
we're seeing it. And all you need is just a base level of information. There isn't much more to know about Rachel, but you should know that the work that she's doing is really significant, especially in today's world with the rise of cybersecurity hacks, with the rise
Mm,
of mistrust and I suppose, fake stuff that we see on the internet today. So
yeah.
I'd highly recommend going, checking out her work. Being aware about social engineering and really just watching some of her videos, which we link, and you can figure out what is it that you can do to stay safe on the internet as well. While this is about Rachel Tobac, I just wanted to say that a lot of women have been doing some significant amount of work within this field. So I also wanted to give a special shout out to this woman called Caitlin Bowden. She has her own organization, very similar to Rachel's, called Badass, which is an organization that's dedicated to eradicating non-consensual pornography on the internet.
Mm,
So anything that you find with deep fakes and AI images, she actively works to bringing them down. And this comes out of her own photos shared online without permission. So she's
mm,
also had a very similar story where she went from being a bartender to now running this global nonprofit. There's a lot of work that these wonderful women are doing. So check them out. Caitlin Bowden, Rachel Tobac. All of their work is now still visible on LinkedIn. And I think Rachel Tobac recently did something about like an awareness campaign for Valentine's with Meta. So much of this happens around us every day. And I think that these are stories that do need to come out, and these are concepts that we need to be very much aware of as everyday
mm,
people having our lives on the internet. So,
mm.
yeah, do check that out. That's pretty much all that I have on Rachel. I know it's not very detailed, but this was just a very cool woman that I found
No, that's so
on the internet.
fascinating.
Yeah, and a
And
very
it's such
cool
a
concept.
yeah, it's such a scary time like on the internet and the
Yeah.
things that people will exploit and yeah, like non-consensual, content online is like wild. I remember when I first learned about like deep fakes and like all that kind of stuff. It's just like it's crazy. So such an important thing for people to be um I guess taking responsibility for and being socially
Yeah,
responsible in the sense of, not just as we keep going back to, not just technology for the sake of technology, but how can we be using technology responsibly and safely and looking after people? So yeah,
for sure.
really
Yeah.
cool.
So, as I was talking about in the beginning of the episode where I saw this video, right? And it turns out social engineering, as I mentioned, does not really need complicated lines of code. As long as this is somebody that you know or have followed and have learned enough information about. And to be honest, it's not that hard these days on the internet. People
Mm,
put so much of their life online and public, and our digital footprint is so there, it's so
mm,
present, that the first step for social engineering when it happens is pretty much in your hands, like you've given it away. So the first step
mm,
just involves identifying the victim, gathering background information, and then you go on to proceed by selecting like the attack method. So
mm,
with this episode in mind, with Rachel Tobac, how she went about hacking a billionaire is just by knowing enough about this person. And it doesn't really need to deal with much. Like it's just about knowing enough details like your birthday and your last name, and oftentimes you can combine this with like some kind of a voice masking, audio masking technology, which is just an app that you can download off the App Store.
mhm,
And then the next phase of attack would basically be to deceive the victim. So you engage with the target, but you engage with the target in such a way that it either comes out of like a sense of urgency, or you spin the
yep,
story in a psychologically manipulative manner. So, once again,
Yeah.
going back to Rachel's example, she posed as the billionaire's assistant, and did not say much, but only said, check your email. And it came with such a sense of urgency that you wouldn't really suspect it. Like tomorrow, if
Mm,
I were to, if somebody has studied you, Beth, enough, they would just reach out to you via email and just let you know, like, hey, this is Akshaya. Can you just can you maybe check your email, or can you maybe send this text to me, or just check this text that I've sent you? And because you are someone who obviously trusts your friend, or, accidentally you
mm,
left information like this on the internet, it just may be that first point of entry to get to you. A common step here is, this is why we should always watch out our emails for anything that may be even just suspiciously looking. An
yeah.
easy way that hackers can deceive you is by using the same email ID, but instead of maybe the capital I, it would be the letter L. Instead of the A, like the letter A, it could be the at symbol. So these are like the common ways of deception where you can get to someone by using an alternative email ID, by using a copied phone number. So many things are possible. So those are the
Mm,
first two steps of like social engineering. The third thing is basically just obtaining information over a period of time. And this could be that, like it's a regular phone call that happens, or you could just get this person to click a certain thing or engage with you just enough to gain information about you. This other video that I watched involved a woman impersonating a person's wife, like the man's wife, when he didn't even have a partner. But she just
what?
had like she just had the baby crying in the background as like a noise, and it was a YouTube video of a baby crying. And she knew the name of his girlfriend, but most often companies really don't go through that additional checkpoint. And by companies, I mean things like airline companies or your phone service providers. So if you often just pose as somebody else, you can get just enough information by letting in a little bit of information. So for example, if you knew the person's last name and the date of birth, then you may get enough access about another thing. And then that thing could lead into another thing. And companies may not even be aware that they're now giving away information, like significant information that could affect the person that's being prodded into this. And
Oh,
then the
so wait, so
final,
she pretended to be someone's partner to someone else, not to them. Like
uh,
she didn't call the guy and was like, "I'm your wife."
oh, no, no,
She
no. It
called
was
someone
more
and was like,
like,
"I'm
yeah, it
this
was more
person's
like
wife."
calling. So she
I
basically
see, I see, I
called
see.
the
I was like,
service
how would
provider
he not
company.
know that
No,
it's
no.
not his wife?
Well, I mean,
But
yeah,
that
but
makes more
in
sense.
Rachel's case, she basically called as the assistant, so you can do it the other
Yeah,
way around as well. And a lot
like
of
on
these
behalf of someone.
on behalf of someone, yes, or
Yeah, okay.
you can be calling and you can add yourself on somebody else's phone plan and then get the password changed to your name just by saying that you're this person's girlfriend. So if companies do not have enough checkpoints in their security
Mm,
measures, this is how easy it is for somebody to like literally take over control of your account.
that's wild.
uh yeah, there's so many examples, and there's like many videos online of where people get willingly hacked, people losing from airlines points to their photos getting leaked, so many different things. And then the final step of social engineering is basically closing this interaction, ideally without arousing any suspicion. So you basically just
Mm,
remove all traces, whether it's a malware or a software that you have installed on the computers, or you cover your tracks and you basically just, steer clear of it. Now, social engineering and hacking go hand in hand in terms of the different forms that they can take. So I suppose the basic thing that we know is phishing, which is usually these scams or
Hmm.
emails or text messages that often create like a sense of urgency and is like, hey, you need to get back to me right now.
Yep.
You have to open this website or you need to like call me on this number, stuff like that. Another very famous example is scareware, which usually involves victims being bombarded with a lot of false alarms and
Mm,
fictitious threats. And then these users are then deceived to think that their system is infected with malware. And then you end up installing like a software which is supposed to battle the malware out. And then you end up
mm.
clicking foreign links and you don't know where you've ended up. Another probably very common example with social engineering is pretexting, which is that you do get enough information and then you obtain more information through like a series of cleverly crafted lies. So the
Mm.
attackers usually then start by establishing the trust and then working through several different areas like banking information, tax officials, and everything right to know authority. They know just enough to confirm the victim's identity and then they gather a lot of important and personal data. Some modern day example of some real famous attacks, and I think one of the most known ones is all over, I think, Google. Some dude sent out fake invoices to
Mm.
several employees stating that this was a piece of work that they had completed, and the employees then started sending money to fill out these invoices without actually checking them. But there was no amount of work that was done.
Oh, yes, I've heard about this.
Yes.
It
And the
was just
scam
like
went up.
billing people
Yes.
for like work from Google or whatever, or work from like some big company,
Yes,
but then it was
exactly.
actually going to this guy.
Yeah. And it was almost a scam of up to 100 million. Yeah. So there was a lot of money lost at that point.
Wow.
People have tried to hack into the White House this way, but luckily have managed to not like get too close, although they were at the brink of almost letting them in. Several other companies, like Toyota, was a victim to this, where they lost almost 37 million US dollars, only via persuasion. Like the attackers persuaded a finance executive to change recipients' bank account information in wire transfer. So now this really leads you to think like, what are these banks' policies about, right?
Yeah.
Like how far are they going to verify your identity, especially when you're on call with them? Yeah, so many examples of social engineering. But I suppose talking about all of this, especially in today's day and age, would feel like a I don't know. I don't want to create like a sense of dread. Like I don't want you to be like, "Oh, should I just
Panic. Yeah.
yeah, or completely wipe myself off the internet?" Absolutely not,
Mm.
because social engineers like Rachel, like Caitlin, are working on a daily basis to basically better the systems that we interact with on a daily basis. While they are doing that for big companies, I suppose the least thing that we can do is obviously small steps like using multi-factor authentication, be wary of like really tempting offers on emails, just looking out
Mm.
on emails. You could be in a rush and you could just be clicking things and you wouldn't even know any enough verification, or you might just be caught up in the busyness of the day to really look into it. Another solid thing I would say is probably making your parents and even more elder than your parents, like grandparents, aware of this. Because I feel like
Yep.
even our generation still has a good hold about this, but there is a significant amount of elderly aimed attacks,
Mm.
especially with psychological warfare. It's so easy. Like you could get a call from your own, like, parents could be getting calls from their daughters or sons, and it
Mm.
could raise such a huge alarm. So do do spread the word as much as you can about these things. And if you ever feel like reading up more about social engineering and Rachel's works, go ahead and like alert yourself about it. I'm going to drop a few links in the description below, so you can actually see in live how social engineering works, and maybe that alerts you enough to like start taking the appropriate measures today.
Mm.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I have. It's not exactly a very traditional episode that we do, but I thought it was
No, it's fascinating.
a cool thing
And
that women are
it's a
doing
female
these days.
founder of like a really important company.
Yes,
I
a
think
very important company today.
yeah, it's always wild to me because I think we tend to think, oh, only like older people or like non-technical people would like fall for these kind
Yeah,
of scam. But like,
yeah.
yeah, big companies, high up executives, like people fall for it because and they play on, like you said, this whole social engineering thing. They play on people's anxiety, or their urgency or their familiarity with someone if they think it's
Yes,
someone they know.
exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, and I think it's can be so predatory, but I think no one's like totally immune to it.
No, that's exactly what Rachel mentions as well. She openly challenges people that she can hack them because according to her, nobody is 100%
mm,
non-hackable. So
mm,
there is information about us on the internet, whether you like it or not, it's always
yeah.
available. But how far can you go to protect yourself? That's completely in your hands, right? So yeah,
Yeah, it's one
that
of the
was
interesting things about like this is kind of a sideways tangent, but like in terms of people with kids, like how much of your
the
kids' information do
information.
you put online?
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
it might not be no one's hacking like a 6-year-old right now, but
Yes.
in 20 years, like
Yeah.
you know how a lot of the security questions will be like, what was the name of your first teacher? What was the name of your childhood pet? What state did you grow
Yes.
up on? Like
Yeah.
those are the kind of things that now, if your whole childhood is on the internet, someone can find that. Like
For
someone can
sure.
find what your pet dog when you were 6 was called because your mom posted about it all the time on
Yeah.
Instagram 20 years ago. Like
Yeah.
so it's just those
Mother's
things that
maiden
like
names, things like these are so
yeah,
easily available. So you
stuff
must be
that
very
used to be so
careful.
private that you could
Yeah.
use it as like a security clearance
Yeah.
is now sometimes public and it's such a tricky thing of like how careful do you need to be in terms of what you share.
For sure. For sure, actually. It's a good thing there are organizations that are actively working to fight this, and taking down incorrect or I would say what do you say, like fake stuff off the
Mm,
internet. It's a good thing as long as we fight the
malicious.
good fight, there would be less fake stuff on the internet. And I
Yeah.
think another thing that we should be doing as responsible citizens, I suppose, is that if you do see
Mm,
some fake news, especially because social media these days are kind of washing their hands of not wanting to take responsibility of fake news. So if
yeah, we
you
don't need to
can
censor
be,
anything.
yeah. So if you can be part of the community notes to let them know, do that. Go ahead and do
Mm,
that. It is very important to let people know what's fake and what's not. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's so interesting. That's a field that I don't know much about, but I would love to know more about. It sounds like there's some really good content out
Yeah.
there from Rachel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me I'm always like I always whinge so much about like multi-factor authentication. Like when I have to like double log in and do the
With the
authentication on my
phone and
phone and I'm
yeah,
like,
everything.
like can
Yeah.
I just use my password? But like, it's a good reminder that's actually for a reason and it's actually probably keeping me safe. So thank you
Yeah,
for
for
the reality
sure.
check.
Yeah, we don't only have locks on our doors now. We need to lock everything else
Mm.
up. For sure. Yeah, this turned into a bit of like a PSA episode, but yeah, it was highly necessary.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But fascinating works by Rachel. You have to check her out. She's such a cool lady and she's so chill
Mm.
and so calm when she does hacking as well. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Akshaya.
Thank you. And we'll see you guys for the next one.
Amazing. All right, bye.
Bye.